Welcome again. You are watching Sunrise at Sea and you're right in time for Our Views Part 2. And in studio we have a very special gentleman, Mr. Patrick Moyesigua from the Uganda Adolescent and Youth Center. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
It's good to have you.
Pleasure indeed to be here.
Yes.
It's quite exciting. I love
love the set.
It's different. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what we're discussing this morning is actually access to reproductive health services for young girls and young women in Uganda today. But before we dive into that conversation, have a look at this. So the education officer, Nelson Ayo, claimed that over 90,000 girls under 18 have gotten pregnant during this period when they were not going to school. Hamuza Lubale, a children welfare officer in Luka district, said he has so far recorded 770 pregnancies of children below 18 years. But he said there may be many more in rural areas which have not been recorded. And since we're talking about adolescent girls here, contraception in early adolescence. Young people are having sex. Advice about sexual health and contraception should be considered for all adolescents, including those aged as young as 12 or 13 years. Condoms plus one other method of contraception is recommended in this age group to protect against sexually transmitted infections and pregnancy. The pros and cons for each type of contraception should be discussed, and provided there are no contraindications, patient choice encouraged, as this is likely to increase compliance. So, ladies and gentlemen, do you think this epidemic of its own is because of lack of access to reproductive health services during this time when kids have not been going to school? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Are they not sensitized, or there is no access to it? What do you think the problem is here?
I think the issue is access to information. We pretend that these things do not happen and we do not want to tell our young adults about it, forgetting that they're actually either learning off social media or even doing it behind your back. So aren't you better off calling a spade, and instead of lying to a child, and then you later find out that they're actually getting involved in some of these vices? Because I mean, they're not young anymore. So we can't continue acting like it doesn't exist.
But aren't they young? When girls as young as 13 or 14, 15 are getting pregnant, are they still young?
Well, let me just bring the issue into perspective, maybe. First and foremost, my name is Patrick Moyesigua, and I work with the Uganda Youth and Adolescent Health Firm as the director. Today, Uganda, even in this era and age, we have approximately 16 women who are still dying due to pregnancy and childbirth-related complications. That's on a daily basis. And annually, that's around 6,000 women. We have millions more women and girls that would want to delay pregnancy, prevent pregnancy, or space childbirth that are not able to access contraception. We have millions of women and girls that undergo various forms of sexual and gender-based violence, including sexual exploitation, harassment, and abuse. We also have millions of girls, and these ones are made in the adolescent girls, that have been forced into marriages when they are below 18. All this is happening at the onset of so many promises and commitments and so much money that has been sunk into the health sector, into the education sector, into the gender sector, but progress is very limited. Very many girls today are having sex, like you're saying.
Yes.
And boys as well are having sex. Actually, according to the Uganda Demographic Health Survey, it shows that many girls within the urban setting start their sexual debuts at an average age of 17. And then for girls in rural settings, they start their sexual debuts at an average age of 16.5. But that's just data. We know very well. We've seen where we come from. Each of us, even those who are watching, we have evidence of our relatives, sisters, cousin sisters, neighbors, friends who have gotten maybe pregnant at 15, 13, you know. So maybe now the question is that why is this happening? And why have we taken long to realize progress? Why is the unmet need for family planning high in this country? And why is it high among young people? Where is all the money that is coming through GFF, the global financing facility that is going to Ministry of Health? Millions of US dollars. In 2019, government of Uganda borrowed $100 million US dollars to sink into maternal and child health, including family planning. We have a lot of money coming through Global Fund, you know. We have a lot of money also coming from our own taxpayers' money that is being sunk into the health sector. But why is it that up to today, girls, women and girls who want to space pregnancy, who want to delay pregnancy, who want to space childbirth are not getting those essential services? And these are essential services. Reproductive health services are essential services. You need them. If you don't provide them, you will lose women. If you don't provide them, you'll have a spike of a population that you cannot take on in terms of skilling, in terms of educating, in terms of meeting their needs. And for me, here the issue now should go to what are those key barriers? And maybe I could first relax it there, and then maybe let my colleagues come in, and then I could go to the key barriers.
But I'm wondering, according to the 2019 Nairobi Summit, where it was agreed that we would like to give universal health services and targeting adolescents and young women. What was agreed then, and what was accomplished between 2019 and now? Where are we at?
Yeah, actually, in the year 2019, the year 2019 marked the 25th anniversary of what we call the ICPD, the International Conference on Population and Development. And this was a landmark conference which took place in 1994 in Cairo, where 179 governments came together to reassure and commit to the health, the rights, and the well-being of women and girls. And just in 2019, recently, in September, while in Nairobi, I was there personally, vividly, and the head of state, His Excellency, the President, was there. And this is the commitment that he made. I'm going to read it for you. At the landmark Nairobi Summit, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, committed to the following on behalf of government. 1, to eliminate obstacles that stand in the way of women and girls' empowerment, including teenage pregnancies, child marriages, and all forms of sexual and gender-based violence, including also making sexuality education available in schools.
Yes.
He also went ahead to commit that 10% of Uganda's resources that go to reproductive, maternal, newborn, and child health will be allocated to adolescent health.
Yes.
In 2020, Ministry of Health's Adolescent and School Health Division received no funding. 0.
Why so?
That's a question for all of us Ugandans. How can we push to make sure that adolescent health services are invested in with money? It's not just talk, lip service, but these commitments, for example, the commitments that the president made, they are followed up with money, because commitments without money is just lip services, you know.
Okay, so even after the money is got, do we have a guarantee that actually some of these services are going to be welcomed by, first of all, it goes back down, because it's not government's job alone. All stakeholders need to get involved, I'm assuming. Absolutely. If it's religious leaders, if it's teachers, if it's parents. So even if government procures that money and a parent is not comfortable with you telling their child about family planning, you will still not get as much results as you would have got if they were interested in getting involved. Do you see where I'm coming from? Because not every parent would want to have these conversations with their child. So even if the money is procured, if all stakeholders are not on board, then you're not going to achieve as many results.
Absolutely. Now, for example, the teenage pregnancy problem, it's a multi-sectoral problem. It's a problem that is underpinned by cultural norms, social cultural norms, for example. What religion, culture, education, culture, information, kids being able to get the right information. And that's why, for example, we're talking about sexuality education. But look, parents today are not playing their role. in terms of providing sexuality education to their children. You get it? They're shying away because they think, what does religion tell us in this country? It's kind of like it's not comfortable to sit with your child and you start talking about issues of sex.
Yeah.
You're teaching them to go and have sex. That's the perception, which is wrong. So that is why we have an opportunity for sexuality education. I'm happy to note that Ministry of Education in 2018 developed and launched a sexuality education framework. It was launched by the First Lady at there's a school somewhere there in I've forgotten the place, but it's one of Sudil's school, Kampala Parents, down there in Naguru. Yeah. I was there in 2018 when this sexuality education framework was launched by Ministry. 6 months down the road, religious leaders came up and said, look here, we have a huge stake in the education sector in this country, and they're absolutely right. There's so many church-founded schools, Islam-founded schools, Catholic-founded schools, Anglican, so many. I said, to hell with you teaching sexuality education in our schools. Because the perception was like, you're going to teach sexuality education to our kids, and you're teaching them to go and have sex, to use you're telling them to go and use contraceptives, so they're going to go and start having sex.
But isn't that burying their heads in the sand?
That's the point.
Because if they do that, then we have high mortality rates for women, and infant morbidity rates, because if the mother is dead, then the infant is not well, and the government ends up spending more money.
Absolutely. And these are the facts that religious leaders need to know. But before I come to those facts, so like you are saying, I agree entirely. It's a multi-sectoral problem, but we need leadership. We need, every multi-sectoral arrangement needs leadership. We need to see Ministry of Health, we need to see Ministry of Gender, we need to see Ministry of Education, the Office of the Prime Minister come up with more of like a multi-sectoral plan to show who does what, who's doing what, who's doing what. Last week but one, you had, I think as media people you might have or even possibly been there, you saw the First Lady, all the powerful ladies in this country, you know them. The First Lady, who's also the Minister for Education, Honorable Nabanja, who is the Prime Minister, the Vice President, Jessica Lupo, and also the Health Minister, who is a lady, the Gender Minister, who is a lady, and together with UNICEF and UNFPA, they launched a national campaign on ending teenage pregnancy, ending defilement, and all that. Now you see, but that came after they saw a huge rise in teenage pregnancies. Why do we wait for the problem? You get it? Because that's what we have been calling for all along. We need leadership. We need stewardship to the problem, because religious leaders are not going to come up if they're not guided by Ministry of Gender, because that's where they fall. You get it? Parents, we have parenting guidelines that were developed by Ministry of Gender, but they're not disseminated. And look, in every single district in this country, we have a district community development officer. We have a probation officer. And these structures are even split down up to the sub-counties and to the parish. But then they're still struggling and saying we cannot disseminate parenting guidelines. Why? You get it? So we have structures in this country. I mean, gather religious leaders together through their leadership, the Interreligious Council. You get it? That's why you find the Anglicans, the Catholics, the Muslims, the born-agains, and offer leadership and say, look, we have a big problem in this country, and these are the messages. Please integrate them within your sermons on Sundays, and let the parents know. Let's use this Christmas break to make sure that we invest more information in mending child-parent relationships, and tell them on the magnitude of the problem, and tell them when these girls get pregnant, it is beyond just carrying a baby. It risks their life to death, you know, due to complications related to pregnancy and childbirth complications. Look at all different causes of maternal mortality and morbidity in this country: eclampsia, hemorrhage, obstructed labor. Who is largely affected? It's these girls. You know, because they are not ready. Look at all the stillbirths in this country. About 50% of the stillbirths in this country, stillbirths meaning those babies who are born when they are dead. You get it? It's majorly these girls between 15 to 19 years. Look at all abortions in this country, unsafe abortions that are largely contributing to maternal mortality in this country. Majority of them are what? Are these adolescent girls. So the religious leaders need to know this and know that, okay, we can prevent all that by simply providing the right and correct information to these girls and also providing them contraceptive services.
You know, my issue with this whole thing is that they like to exclude the men and the boys from this equation because the girls don't get themselves pregnant. Because you have said very wise words, and I agree, concur 100% with everything that you're saying. But we are neglecting the fact that there are boys and there are men who are getting these girls pregnant. So where are where the campaigns and the sensitization and awareness to tell men to stop defiling girls, to tell boys to not have unprotected sex, to tell boys to at least wait until marriage? Why is this a responsibility that is thrown on women and girls, young girls just alone? Because they're in this place because of the men. In the first place.
They wouldn't get there if it wasn't for the men.
Exactly.
So don't you think they need to be part of this conversation?
Yeah, actually, we cannot achieve gender equality without involving men, and not men only, but men and boys.
Yes.
You know, it's quite interesting how sometimes we try to nurture girls to become wives, but we don't invest a lot in nurturing boys to become husbands. Even at a family setting, at a family level, you'll find your mother telling you, hey, you need to do omchala kora wati, you need to do like this. They're preparing you in a few years to come to be a wife. But look at the boys at home. They are free.
Nothing.
This is quite true. This is quite true.
But
I'm sorry to cut you short, sir. In the essence of time, we have to be wrapping this up. But you've had that from Mr. Patrick Moyesigua, and he has given us insight on access to reproductive health services to adolescents and young girls, and what prevents this from happening, I beg your pardon, and the measures we should put in place, taking a bottom-up approach across all sectors and through things such as religion and families, because charity does indeed begin at home, to combat this surge of pregnancies of very young girls that is costing their lives. Well, that's all we had for Our Views Part 2 this morning, but don't blink, we'll be right back. Well, thank you for watching Sunrise at Sea this morning. We hope you enjoyed being with us as much as we enjoyed being with you. Well, I would like to give an opportunity for Mr. Patrick Moyesigua to say bye-bye to you. What are your parting shots, sir?
Well, the problem is big. The problem is big, and like she said, sorry, I didn't get the name. Shivan did note that it needs a multi-sectoral approach. We need all different stakeholders to come into play, including the media, including the private sector, including the transport sector, these border riders, taxi riders. We need to go down and reach to all the vulnerable communities, including these who are usually forgotten. I'll give you very few examples. Like, look at all these girls that serve in bars, in restaurants, in lodges. Look at those DJs in bars. Look at these are the people that are largely affected by the problem. So we need to reach out to them. But then also importantly, I think healthcare providers need to be friendly to the young people and drop the biases, the judgments, and the stigma, and open up to receive. The way you receive a 16-year-old when they come in for a service is different from the way you receive me, a 30-year-old, or maybe a mother who is 40 years old. And then also, government of Uganda again needs to provide stewardship to the problem, and we need to challenge culture, negative culture norms that draw girls into things like child marriages, that perpetrate sexual and gender-based violence. We need to challenge all that and strongly come out. And I would like to call on all of you to be champions for adolescent health and well-being.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insight on that. And Sarah, would you like to say bye-bye?
Yeah, keep it locked to CTV. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Siobhan, any parting shots?
Mine is, it's very important, we need to involve the male children or the boy child to get involved in these adolescent issues, because we do not get ourselves pregnant. There is always someone behind there. So we need a multi-sectoral approach. But also, it's been an amazing show. Kudos to people behind the scenes. Otherwise, don't blink.
Well, that is all from us here, Sunrise at Sea, but do not go anywhere because next on there is a movie, and then at 11 Tim Cash comes with the mid-morning party. But also remember at 7 p.m. there is the Uganda news on CTV, and 9 p.m. there is the 9 p.m. edition with the English news. Well, we hope you have a lovely, lovely day, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Good morning.